We all remember the iconic moment when All Might faced All for One and they clashed fists like titans. Everybody around the world tuned in from their televisions to watch this incredible moment unfold. But what would happen if we changed events slightly and altered the timeline to make things play out differently? What would happen if My Hero Academia had a time skip? How would this affect Deku's character development and Class 1A as a whole? Stick around to the end of the video to find out. And also, make sure to turn on that subscribe button and the noti bell to be informed of whenever I drop my next video. That said, drop a like because it helps a ton with the algorithm and it helps your boy out a lot. Boost your boy's confidence. So, help out. Anyways, though, what would happen if All Might realistically ended up changing the timeline with one simple change? What I am proposing is essentially the moment when All for One and All Might are clashing fists. By the end of everything, when All Might stands tall and he's pretty much letting everybody know that he was heroic. He won. He starts faltering. He then points weakly at Izuku's direction towards the camera, turns away and lets him know that it's now his turn. All Might then weakly falls onto the ground as he loses consciousness. Not only that, but loses his life. All Might would be carried away in a stretcher as All for One would laugh, and the maniacal feeling of despair goes through everyone's chest as the cameras stop and everything goes silent. The world would stop for a moment as everybody would take in what had just happened. A couple of hours later, it would then be stated that All Might had lost his life in battle. And All Might died protecting the people that he loved. He died being the symbol of peace that the people needed. And All Might did his job to the very end. And now it was Izuku Midoriya's turn to grab that torch and carry it the way that All Might knew he could someday. However, Izuku now needed to step up to the plate much faster than he needed to in the original, and Gran Torino, watching the death of his student, not only that, but the mentor of Izuku, decided that it was now time to take Izuku's training into his own hands. He will train the next beacon of peace. He will train Izuku Midoriya to be the next #1 hero. And he will do this all in a matter of 2 years. And that is where the time skip comes in. This is where the timeline changes, ladies and gentlemen. What would happen if Izuku, instead of continuing going to 1A and having the overhaul arc, having the agency with Endeavor, or even having the Class 1A versus Class 1B trial tribulations that they had not unfolded? If Izuku left 1A earlier than he did in the original, how would events play out? Well, first and foremost, we have to cover what would happen during that period. Obviously, after All Might falls and the screen goes dark, the panel would pretty much shift to be continued. Everything's dark. We have a brief time skip in the real world, and we are reading these pages of the manga, wondering what's going to happen next. We're not knowing what happens with the My Hero Academia timeline, but suddenly, the next chapter comes out after a 1-year hiatus, and it's revealed that Izuku is standing tall, looking at his fist, with Gran Torino's cape flying in the wind. As Izuku thinks to himself that this is now the state of Japan, he would look towards the streets that are filled with so much violence and terror, as well as criminals going through every corner of the street, heroes trying their hardest to beat them, and trying their hardest to regain the attention of the people, regain the trust of everybody who they had lost. But it doesn't happen. It does not work. And Izuku would look over all the destruction, all the chaos that Shigaraki and All for One have let loose onto the world. Overhaul would have been taken care of via the heroes. I do think wholeheartedly that the heroes could have saved Eri without Izuku being there. Single-handedly, I believe that Aizawa himself, with the power of his erasure, could have been more than enough to cancel out Overhaul's quirk to the point where Mirio would have had the chance to throw the ones with him and ultimately defeat him, leading to the eventual saving of Eri. After Izuku leaves, the entire classroom is not really sure what to do. Bakugo feels betrayed by his best friend who didn't even get to tell him goodbye. And I use the term best friend very loosely, just saying. So we then get this moment, right, where All for One is at the pinnacle of his power. Shigaraki has had 2 years to train on his decay, and with the events of the My Villain Academia arc that transpired, Shigaraki would now have access to his abilities that are decay, to pretty much destroy things with nothing but 5 fingers, or even just a touch. Shigaraki is now a greater threat than ever, and villains from all over the world are starting to wreak havoc upon Japan. Izuku returns back to his classroom only to be greeted to some happy faces and some people thinking that he simply left when the going got tough, that he came back too late. But Izuku knows one thing. He knows that all the training that he had done with Gran Torino was worth it. Because now Izuku has mastered a grand total of multiple different fighting styles, having multiple abilities of fighting close range, long range, and having unlocked all of the quirks of the previous vestiges inside of All for One. One for all. The moment that the world went silent and All Might was gone from the world, we saw a scene where Izuku entered the vestige world and saw All Might once again, asking him, "What do I do, All Might? How do I become a symbol of peace like you? What do I do?" He's trying his best to pick up the torch, but much like with us trying to learn things from our father, we are not exactly as experienced as they are, so it's harder for us as a whole to learn things as fast as they potentially picked it up. With the idea of the quirk Doomsday Theory being a real thing, Izuku's power that he was bestowed upon himself was much more powerful than what All Might got. He wasn't able to simply grab the quirk and immediately start throwing 100% burst punches at the walls. Izuku's not able to do the things that All Might was able to do at his prime. So Izuku needed these 2 years to train. And during this time, he learned martial arts. He learned how to control all of his quirks. He learned how to higher his percentages with One for All. And after these 2 long years of training, Izuku managed to master a grand total of 89% of One for All, as he had now become one of the most powerful characters in the entire series. At the moment that Izuku was planning his return, Shigaraki was now currently undergoing the surgery, which would have propelled him to extreme heights and levels never before seen by the MHA world before. Shigaraki had become an absolute monster, and All for One was taking control of Shigaraki's body, turning into his prior self with a brand new body, much like Orochimaru would do in the Naruto series. All for One would begin to get used to this brand new body of his and would now be planning his final attack. Izuku going back to the school would be greeted by many people enjoying his presence and other people thinking that he should get lost, that he abandoned them and he does not belong at UA. And Izuku would know one thing. He has to make them understand that Izuku being there isn't simply to try to drag them down, but to try to elevate them, to try to help them, to try to save Japan, because that is Izuku's goal and that's what he's going to do. So in a moment of desperation, I believe wholeheartedly that Izuku in these trials and tribulations would decide that he's going to make his stand known and that he's going to show the world that he is here. That's exactly what I think would happen if Izuku had a time skip. With his power, with his new outfit, with his new cape, with everything that he had learned through this time of training under Gran Torino, Izuku would now be ready to finally face against All for One in one final standstill battle. And I believe that this would finally mark the endgame battle of My Hero Academia, what we deserved as fans. Instead of Horikoshi being flung around from 2 different sides of the fandom, one deciding that My Hero Academia is too dark, one deciding that they wanted everything to stay the same. Instead, Horikoshi has full creative insight to do whatever it is that he wants, and with this, he would be able to do something along the lines of what I'm describing to you all. Izuku would grow to be powerful, and I know I keep repeating myself, but I cannot state just how powerful Izuku will be with 80% One for All and all of the quirks that he has at his disposal. All Might may not have given him much in terms of quirk to use, but All Might does give him the benefit of knowing that if it was done before and All for One could be defeated, then he would be carrying the torch. And this time, Izuku would not leave it to anybody else. He was given the torch and he will be the final hope, the final stand. We would see this in a final battle, a clash between titans of Izuku Midoriya and All for One clashing one final time. And at the end of everything, when the dust finally settles, we would see Izuku standing strong in an iconic pose, holding his fist out like this, thinking to himself as he looks up at the sky and looks at the vestige of All Might, as he finally would think to himself that he finally did it. He would then hold his hand up proud and let everybody know that he is here as the cameras would pan to him. And in the iconic pose, people all over the world would be watching their screens, covering their mouths in complete awe at what Izuku had just done. He single-handedly, not really, but almost single-handedly, well, he single-handedly defeats the villain, but he doesn't single-handedly take on everybody, because that's just ludicrous. I don't think even Izuku himself could do that. All the heroes would be there in one final standstill, and Bakugo would not lose his life. I don't think that Bakugo had to lose his life in the My Hero Academia manga, and I also don't think that him being brought back every 10 seconds is something that is exactly good for the series, because it's going to get to the point where it eventually gets beat up so much that we don't really care about what happens. So ultimately, Izuku rests at the top, and Japan then undergoes another brief 3-year time skip where the world is rebuilt to what it was before. Izuku becomes a pro hero, and he is the number 1, followed by Mirio at number 2, Todoroki at number 3, and finally Bakugo at number 4 when it comes to the hero ratings. We see a vision of Izuku and Uraraka both together in one final scene where Izuku smiles and the chapter closes. Izuku would finally finish his story explaining how he became the greatest hero of the world. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I believe would happen if Izuku or the My Hero Academia manga had a time skip. That's what I personally wish could have happened with the series. And even though many of you guys may not agree with me, this is my personal take on what I believe the My Hero Academia story could have been, what I wish it was, because I love this series from top to bottom. I've been watching it ever since 3 to 4 years ago. I'm not really sure. Obviously, I wasn't there from the beginning, but goddamn will I be there for the end, regardless of how this series ends. And kudos to Horikoshi for making this series as great as it has been for this long, because God Almighty knows that you do not go through making a series this great and eventually leading to its finale without trying your absolute hardest. And I believe that he did that. But it's came to a point where everybody's telling him different things, and Horikoshi is ultimately drained of the love, the passion, and the excitement that he once had to create this incredible world known as My Hero. But that is going to be wrapping up today's video. And if you enjoyed today's video at any point, make sure to check out the, not sponsor of the video, but just what I be repping. Oh my God, I can't show you guys, but check it out, boys. We got some slight clothing. These boys sent out some dope anime merch. And I'm telling you guys, I love these. These are so high quality. I literally bought so many. I've invested so much money into their shorts. I have the blue Tanjiro pair. Trust me, they all fit amazing. I have this really dope Luffy Taro pattern. It just looks incredible. This incredible Doflamingo design. This one is my personal favorite. And last but not least, the Zenitsu design. So if you guys want to go get yourself some dope anime merch that you guys know will be of incredible quality and will not only that, but also be getting to you guys in under 2 weeks, make sure that you guys go check out Some Slight Clothing, because they are doing a sale right now where everything is like 30 to 28% off. And you guys can even make it even lower by potentially finding some promo code. I'm not sure how, but just go join their Discord, which will be linked down below in the description, as well as their website if you guys want to check out their short company. And with all out of the way, guys, if you enjoyed the video at any point, please do me a favor and hit that red button, as it helps out a ton, and also hit the like button, as it genuinely helps me a ton with the YouTube algorithm. And with that said, I love each and every single one of you guys. It has been your boy Zether, and I am out.